Hi, I'm Kaylee, and today I'm doing the Anne of Green Gables book tag. This tag was created by Megan the Story Girl, and I will link her channel and her original video down below. Megan is totally obsessed with everything Anne of Green Gables, and I love it. If she puts out an Anne video, I am there. I have to watch it the second it comes out. So of course, I was absolutely ecstatic to see that she had created a tag, and we're gonna answer all these questions. Question number 1 is the accidental adoption. Matthew and Marilla meet Anne by mistake. How did you discover Anne of Green Gables? So when I was a kid, my mom actually owned the first 3 Anne books. And then as I grew up and I got to be probably about 11 or 12, then she kind of passed those on to me and I got to read them, and we went ahead and bought the rest of the books in the series because, of course, I totally fell in love with Anne. My mom also owned the VHS movies with Megan Follows. Those are my favorites. I really cannot even imagine anybody else as Anne because I grew up watching those movies on old VHS videotapes. And every time we watched it, my mom would cry because, you know, she's a crier. So I have such wonderful memories of watching those movies with my mom when I was a kid, like when I was little, you know, because she would watch them over and over and over. So if you have not read Anne of Green Gables, or if you've not at least seen the movie of Anne of Green Gables or a TV show or something, there are spoilers for just that first book, for just Anne of Green Gables, not Anne of Avonlea or Anne of the Island or any of those others, but you will be spoiled for that first book. Number 2 is puffed sleeves and shabby dresses. What is your favorite Matthew scene and your favorite Marilla scene? I think my favorite Matthew scene is when he buys that dress with the puffed sleeves for Anne. Actually, I love the scene where he's in the store trying to buy it. And he ends up buying like a rake and brown sugar and all of this because he doesn't know how to tell the clerk at the store that he's trying to buy a girly dress. He's just so completely out of his element. He has no idea how to buy clothing for a girl. It's adorable and it's so sweet, and it just makes me love Matthew. My favorite Marilla moment is when she realizes that Anne did not steal her brooch. Marilla sort of has to eat humble pie, as Marilla would say. I think this is a huge turning point in Marilla's character because she has to acknowledge her own mistakes, and she has to acknowledge that she's not going to be perfect, and she's not always going to be in control. And this is the point where she and Anne really begin to develop a trust with one another. And I just love that because Marilla goes through so much character development just through that one little storyline. Number 3 is Red Roads. What is your favorite location on LM Montgomery's glorious Prince Edward Island setting? This is really tough because the way that Prince Edward Island is described in the books is so beautiful. There are so many beautiful scenes with gorgeous scenery and backdrops in forests and lakes and just little farmland. I think probably my favorite though is anytime that they're at a beach or a harbor. Just the gorgeous sand dunes and the grasses and the ocean waves and the salt air. I live near the ocean, and so somehow that always really resonates with me. Number 4 is Kindred Spirits. Which of Anne's kindred spirits do you relate to the most? You know, I don't really relate a ton to all of Anne's friends. I relate to Anne. Anne is very much like I am. She's imaginative, she's smart, she loves to read, she cares about education, she becomes a teacher later, and I'm a teacher. And also, she's sort of misunderstood by the people in her little town of Avonlea. And I definitely feel that way sometimes. Number 5 is a broken slate. What brought out the strongest emotions in you? I think probably the one storyline or the one character that brings out the strongest emotions in me in the first book of Anne of Green Gables, other than Anne herself, is Miss Stacy. Miss Stacy is an amazing teacher. She inspires her students. She is strict but fair. She really cares about them learning, and she really inspired me. I mean, looking back on my journey as a child, realizing that I wanted to grow up and be a teacher, Miss Stacy, the character of Miss Stacy, the idea of how she taught her students and how much they loved her, definitely played a role in me deciding to become a teacher. Number 6 is Raspberry Cordial. What surprised you the most? I think probably the scene that surprised me the most is when Anne puts the liniment in the cake. In the movie, it's that there was a mouse that like fell into the cream or something, but in the book, she puts liniment into a cake. So this is like a cream that you would put on sore muscles or on your neck if your muscles were sore, and it has like menthol and stuff in it probably. So just imagine putting Vicks Vapor Rub into a cake, okay? Not a good scenario. Number 7 is green hair. What did not turn out the way you wanted it to? I think that throughout the series, throughout the whole series, something that was not written in a way that I liked was that characters are introduced into Anne's world for like one book, and we follow their story, and then their main storyline is resolved, and then we never hear from that person again. So as Anne grows up and then goes through the different books and she moves away from Avonlea and she starts her own family and different stuff happens, like we never hear from her college friends almost ever again. Maybe there's like one little mention of them that they got married or something. And I really hate that these characters that have become so beloved and that I really love how they interact with Anne and how they fit into the story. And then it's just like, oh, off they go and they had their happy ending, but then that's just it. We just never hear from them again. They fell off the face of the planet. Number 8 is carrots. What is your favorite Anne and Gilbert moment? I think probably my favorite is when Anne is reciting poetry at the White Sands concert and she gets courage because she does not want to be embarrassed in front of Gilbert. Throughout that first book, Anne and Gilbert are so competitive with one another with their grades and their schooling, and they're both incredibly smart, and they kind of spur one another onward in this spirit of ambition and competition. But as the years go by, it becomes more of a friendly competition. And I think that friendly competition kind of stuff actually starts right there at the White Sands concert. It sort of becomes where they don't wish the other person would fail so that I can succeed, but it's like, let's both succeed and let's just see who gets a little closer to the top. It becomes less spiteful and there's not this animosity in their competition anymore, and it becomes more of just they're inspiring one another to achieve great things. Number 9 is Walking the Ridgepole. LM Montgomery balances a lot of different storylines. Which is your favorite? My favorite storylines are always the ones about teaching, whether it's Miss Stacy who is teaching or later on Anne who becomes a teacher, anything that has to do with school and teaching and getting good grades. I love education. I love inspiring a younger generation to learn, and that's my favorite. The last one is the Lily Maid. Just as Anne and her friends played characters from a favorite story, who would you want to play in Anne of Green Gables? Since I've been talking about teaching for this entire video, you probably know my answer. I would want to be Miss Stacy. I would want to play the Miss Stacy character and inspire my students and catch Anne while she's reading Ben-Hur in the middle of algebra class. And that is the Anne of Green Gables book tag. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what is your favorite scene or your favorite character from Anne of Green Gables. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.